You're welcome back. It is 8 minutes past 8. You're with us here on OTBAM. We're going to turn our attention to the weekend's Premier League action. Mark Lawrenson is standing by. Mark, how are you getting on?
I'm all good, thank you, Giles.
Might start with the big one yesterday. Chelsea 2, Spurs 0. Really felt that there was a gulf between these two teams yesterday, despite the fact that Spurs can rightly feel aggrieved by Harry Kane's goal being chalked off. Did you see it that way as well, that these are two teams in different planes?
Yeah. And as much as, Tuchel's been moaning about a number of games and the travel and all those kind of things involving his team, they're still a very good team and very, very difficult to beat. And they're just a lot better than Tottenham. Tottenham are a long way away from being anywhere near as good as Chelsea, certainly.
Is there a sense that they're still underplaying a little bit at the moment, Tottenham, that of course the squad needs to be revamped? Nobody's questioning that, but is Conte, has he arrived at the point where he's maximising the resources that he does have?
Well, I think somebody said on the comments yesterday that Tottenham need Conte more than Conte needs Tottenham. He's already, let it be known that he needs 3 or 4 players. Well, I don't think he's going to get that in the transfer window. Who as well at the moment he's going to go and sign for Tottenham. January is always very difficult in terms of transfers in and transfers out. And he will know. And the thing about Conte is if and he's surely been promised lots of things, because I think the recruitment guy is also Italian as well, isn't he? And so obviously they've got a liaison between the two of them. But actually getting players into Tottenham is the most difficult thing, because Daniel Levy, he wouldn't leave you a crumb on a plate. So I think he's very, very difficult to deal with. And yes, in terms of the Kane going to Man City and all that, and he demanded X, Y, and Z, and quite rightly. The other way around is that when teams have to deal with him and they're selling one of their players to him, it reverberates against him. So I just, looking at Tottenham, they look destined to finish round about 6 for me, and who's going to come to Tottenham anyway? And at some stage, if nothing happens for Conte, I think he'll just walk away. We've seen it; he's done it before.
Well, we're talking about the acceleration of all of the previous trends that we've seen, and at the moment, it really feels like you don't get a wet week anymore. We'll talk about Rafa in a moment, but could you see Conte walking away before the start of next season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of those guys that if you promise him some, look, he's gone to Tottenham, and he knows that they're a slightly better than mediocre team. So in terms of when he sorts his contract out and everything and the money, that's all good. But then he's one of the other things before he signs his contract is, right, okay, I know already that you need players. Look where you are in the league. So you need players. So we need to bring those players in. And I know every manager says that they need players, but Tottenham do. The problem is against the top teams, they look a little bit brittle. Unless Kane and Son, when available, are flying, they haven't really, when you look at them, they haven't really got a lot, Tottenham, have they? And they can beat majority teams in the league, but can't seem to beat the top teams at all. And they seem to lie well too easily. And I don't think there's a great deal of it in Tottenham.
It does feel a little bit uncomfortable that this is the sort of dynamic that's been spoken about between Spurs and Conte, as if Spurs are in some sort of debt to Antonio Conte, despite the fact that they're paying him handsomely to do the job. Yeah. They're paying him to do a job which is to take this squad to the Champions League places, I suspect. And even if they don't invest in the squad, and assuming Harry Kane stays fit and Son comes back to fitness, and he has the two of them available for the key part of the season this year, would it not be pretty disappointing from Antonio Conte's perspective to not get top 4 in that case?
I don't think he's going to get top 4 anyway, because I don't think they're a top 4 team, to be honest with you. And so I don't really see how it could possibly end up in a good situation. And how many? What was it? We're 24th today, aren't we? So we've got a week left in terms of bringing players in. Nowadays, it's in the old days, and you have to speak a bit about the old days. You could bring a player in on the same day. Nowadays, there's so many details in terms of negotiations, image rights, all these kind of things. it takes at least a week, if not like 10 days. So I just don't see the players coming in. And, up until yesterday, I think, weren't they unbeaten in the Premier League?
Under Conte,
with Conte as manager.
Yeah.
And, they were doing absolutely fine. But in relation to Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester City, they're a long way away.
I think, Mark, I agree with everything you're saying. The one caveat would be that none of the other teams who are going for fourth at the moment look like they're that much better than Spurs. You can see, I think you could throw a blanket over West Ham, United, Spurs, and maybe Arsenal might be able to sneak in under there if we're not watching.
Well, Arsenal are the same old Arsenal, aren't they? So they're not going to change. Look, I think Manchester United will finish fourth anyway, by hook or by crook. But I understand what you say. But even finishing fourth would be an achievement, a really, really good achievement for Conte when you consider how late he joined, and also the three squads in front of him who are obviously going to finish 1, 2, and 3. That would be a great achievement, an outstanding achievement. I just somehow don't see it, because Tottenham are a little bit like Arsenal. They have a good run and then they start to let you down, and you kind of think, well, where's the good players gone all of a sudden? And when you are so reliable as well on Harry Kane, it's very, very difficult. As soon as he gets injured, what's plan B?
Yeah, that's it. There is none. I mean,
yeah.
So in the medium term, we don't expect Antonio Conte to be the Spurs manager for that long. Is that really what it comes down to?
I think obviously it will just depend on, like anything, will depend on the results. If they're seriously pushing for fourth, then I think that will be absolutely fine. And we don't know, as I say, because obviously it's still 10 days with the transfer market, whether they can bring somebody in. But it's quite obvious to everybody who's seen Tottenham that they need a refurb, don't they? And I think what he's thinking is he needs quality just to help the likes of he's got an outstanding centre forward. Well, his two strikers are outstanding, aren't they, on the day? So he's looking like, I mean, get a couple of other players in who maybe not at that level, but, not very far away from that level. I'll have suddenly a completely different team. And I think he's looked at every player now, hasn't he? I think he's played all of them. It looks like he's given them all a chance as well. But it's going to be a big ask to get to fourth. I mean, they will bully quite a few teams in the league, but certainly they won't bully the top three.
Well, what do you think needs to happen between now and the end of the season for Harry Kane to not feel like he did last summer, and for him to not want to move away?
Well, just obviously for them to start playing really well, for him to get to... Listen, you just want to create loads of chances for him, because he is a top player. He's one of the best strikers in Europe. And, if that's the case, you get lots of players around him, and it's almost like, you supply the ammunition and he'll fire the gun for you. But as I say, it's just difficult getting those players. But listen, they've known this for a while. And as yet, I mean, unless I've been to the moon in the last couple of weeks, they haven't signed anybody yet, have they? They've probably been linked with loads of players and all that, but that'll be agents. But nothing's happened as yet.
Definitely feels like they need to clear out the players that Conte doesn't want before the funds are going to be released. And
well, but I think, sorry to cut you off, but I think the problem with that is, like, who want them? And then this is where you come in the way that, they run, is that the players going out, they'll demand a high fee for them, because that's what Tottenham do. And then, it's obviously the buying club would say, well, hold on a minute, this lad's not in the team, he's not playing regularly, and you're asking X whatever. And that's where Daniel Levy is. And I think that therein lies part of the problem as well. And, then we also factor in the cost of the stadium.
Is that ego? Is that what that is? Because Manchester United do something similar. It feels like Manchester United could have got rid of a load of players like Lingard and a few others who weren't really part of the manager's plans at any stage over the last 18 months, and even going back to previous managers. So it wasn't just Solskjaer, it was before that. Is that Manchester United's ego? Is it Spurs' ego refusing to take a...
It's Spurs' ego. I don't necessarily think it's Manchester United, because you go and play for Manchester United and you don't make it, and as a buying club, taking one of the players, you're going to have to pay top dollar because the fact they played for Man United, the wages are massive, and all those kind of things as well. So and that's obviously Daniel Levy doesn't want to pay top dollar for anybody. He wants to get top dollar for his players when he sells them, which is fine, but he can't have it both ways. And in the end, it'll come back to haunt him.
Well, those players are stuck on his books and he's paying their wages and he can't get anything. It's like not understanding the sunk costs and not willing to cut your losses and move on. And they're obviously not a brilliant atmosphere for the players who aren't getting in the team, being around the players who are on the fringes of the team. It's we all know that it doesn't take too many bad apples to ruin an environment. So,
well, only takes one.
Let's talk a bit about Manchester United.
Yeah.
They've turned a corner is what I'm reading, and there's a joy now because
Really?
Marcus Rashford has scored 2 goals, and so he's back, and so it's all sunshine and roses for the rest of the season.
And Martial came on at the weekend and helped.
He touched the ball.
Goal.
Yeah.
I was there. I did the game, and to be honest with you, there wasn't even a shot at goal in the first half from any team. From any team. And then I think in the end, and I never go heavy on the stats, but someone just said, West Ham had 1 shot on target and Manchester United had 3. And you can say, well, tactically, obviously, that Rangnick got it right at the end because he just brought, all the strikers on. But, one man and his dog would have done the same thing, just chuck them on and try and get, obviously, the win, which they got. It was just a strange game because West Ham are a good side at stopping you. Very, very good, and they're very, very physical. But I'm thinking, and I'm looking at it now, and creatively, Bruno Fernandes is the man for Manchester United. But you know what? He gets the ball so deep, so deep now, and you're kind of thinking, West Ham just sat back in, and as good a player as he is, and he nearly created that opportunity for Ronaldo early in the first half with I don't know whether cross come shot, whatever. But I'm thinking if you can get him another 25 yards up the pitch, then it would be completely different. And, the 2 holding players that they've still got as well. Yeah, you can actually say they played well at the weekend, but I still don't think you need 2 holding players. I really seriously don't. And then you look at them and you It's a strange one with Manchester United. They worked very hard on Saturday. They really seriously did. I don't know how far they ran or everything like that, but it was hard work, and in the end they got the result. But there is still something missing. And are they any different from when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was there? Not really. And therein, I suppose, lies the problem. And obviously, Rangnick's had him for a while now in terms of training and coaching. Have we really seen a difference? No. And what I would say is that, the bottom line in football at any level is you've got to work hard. If not work hard, you work even harder. I don't necessarily see that all the time with this team. And that should be basically a given. And you look at all the top teams. They all work hard, they all run hard, come back, strikers come back, sit in, make it difficult for the opposition and all those kind of things. I just don't quite see this with Manchester United. There's something wrong there, and I honestly can't put my finger on it at all.
The only thing I can think of is the character of the individuals that they bought isn't strong enough. That they're not they don't seem to be people who love football, or they don't seem to be good teammates as a group. There seems, I don't know, but certainly it seems.
I think you're right. No, I think you're right. I think the dressing room's really, really important, and you can't have 15 teas and 1 coffee. So you're right, and it's a mental thing. And even people like Harry Maguire, who's been brought up in the lower leagues, at Hull and all those places, and you kind of think even with him, it's a bit sort of. You feel like he wants to be a bit of a big time Charlie, and it's get the players together. That's one thing about Fergie's team and Fergie's teams, I should say. Regardless of whether you thought the teams were good or whatever, they would be horrible to play against. And Man United don't have that. They don't have that little kind of sort of thing. You ain't going to get past me. It's all we play for Manchester United, and aren't we good and all those kind of things. And And you can just see the difference between the Manchester United and the top three teams in terms of, the top three teams. You just feel like they're more committed and they're more willing to run further and quicker for the teammates.
I have one last point on this, because the John McGinn transfer link came out last week in the Telegraph, and the detail that they had that was really interesting to me was that it's his leadership off the field that has impressed Darren Fletcher and by extension Ferguson the most, that he has become a leader for Scotland and he's become a leader for Villa. And it's almost less about his on-field stuff that he was being linked with them for, because you kind of think McGinn, I don't know exactly where he would play, what formation. The new manager coming in mightn't even want him, but it seems like they feel, Darren Fletcher seemed to feel, certainly in the stuff that was being leaked to the papers, that there's character that McGinn has that the team don't have, and they were willing to pay a premium for that.
Well, what do you get in the team on a regular basis? You're not going to pick a player just because he's a fantastic character, are you? And he is a good player, McGinn. Very, very wholehearted, puts his foot in, and he's decent on the ball. But look, you're talking about a whole dressing room, and much is made about Ronaldo when he got brought off. Was it at Brentford? I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And and he was peeved. And honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I'm like, fair enough. And he worked hard at the weekend, etc. So I get that, and I know Ronaldo's about Ronaldo, but he was absolutely peeved. And you want players to be peeved when they're brought off, and unless they've been brilliant and they've got a slight knock, it's completely different. But generally, when you get substituted, it's because it's not probably worked, unless it's really, really late in the game and you're on a booking or whatever. But you just don't see with Manchester United this kind of togetherness, and that's the hardest thing about it. And you look at them defensively, and the goalkeeper is their best player. I got slaughtered when they bought Varane, because I said, look, he's been a top player, but he gets an awful lot of injuries, and that was in La Liga. And it was, he's played this many games and all those kind of things. But you look at Varane and you kind of think, yeah, he's at Real Madrid, etc. And he's been successful, but he should be successful at Real Madrid. And he's put into this Manchester United team, and he's still a really good player. But will he stick his head in the way of things for you? No, absolutely not. And that's basically that's what you want. One or two are prepared to get injured for the good of the team.
On the front then of Liverpool and Manchester City, Mark, title race back on, I presume, given it's obviously going. No, you don't. Like, I mean, the big if I was about to say there is, given the fact that Liverpool can go to the Etihad in April and potentially get a win. But you think that it'll be gone, the gap will be bigger before that?
Yeah, I think so. I really do think so. I think City are gone now. I think you've almost got to forget about them. I think privately, probably Klopp's of the same opinion. I mean, Liverpool just keep going on and churning out results, but City are just above everybody. Well, both figuratively and literally, they are above everybody, and they're just an outstanding team. And all right, they had a hiccup at Southampton. I think they've drawn twice against them now this season, but they're just in a different league at the moment, and I think everybody can see that. And even with my Liverpool hat on, as much as I'd like them to seriously challenge them, I don't think it's going to be possible.
I get the sense that part of that is down to Liverpool as well, Mark, that you're not overly convinced with them. Like, obviously the Manchester City thing is unquestionable. They'll probably go on another great run.
Yeah, no, but because, just look at some of the results. Everyone has poor results, but there's been quite a few games where, generally when they've been to London, they haven't been particularly successful. Obviously, they got the result yesterday against Crystal Palace, but there is, it's taken a while for Van Dijk to get up to speed again, to be, the world-class player that he is, etc. And they've just conceded quite a few strange goals in many, many ways. And in certain games, they've knocked off a little bit, which is most un-Klopp-like. And that's why they're just not. They're still a very, very good team, and I'm pretty sure they'll finish second. But Manchester City are a better team than Liverpool.
On the other side of Liverpool then, it's going to be an interesting couple of days. Vitor Pereira apparently now in the box seat to become the new Everton boss. Is this how you see it playing out, and why has Roberto Martinez's name disappeared into the background?
How is that what they're saying now? So he's going to be the new manager. Well, look, there's an awful lot of work to be done at Everton. It's amazing to think. I mean, you'll probably know better than I, but Moshiri spent, is it £750 million, if not more, on players, and they're all on massive wages, etc. And yet you look at Everton, and really seriously, if you're one of the top 4 teams, who would you take? Who would you take in terms of players from Everton at the moment? They've got an awful lot to do, and it remains to be seen. I mean, at the moment they've got to stop losing. That's the first thing. And all right, the Rafa thing, fair enough, didn't work, etc. But it's just such a difficult job. I thought at the weekend, actually, they'd actually. They played okay, but they're going to play okay and, lose the manager, Duncan in charge, etc., and get them whipped up, etc. But you can see there's hardly any real quality in that team. Yeah, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison maybe. After that, who would anyone else take out of that squad?
Given their league position, though, is their team where, is it the 16th best squad in the league? If we're looking at it on paper, it's surely a bit better than that.
Yeah, they are better than that. Oh yeah. They are better than that. But defensively, they've been poor this season, very, very poor, and they look slow, one pace, etc. So I know Rafa brought a couple of defenders in, before he left, but they've just got a lot to do. There's no, they fight, they work hard, etc. But there is just that quality, and you're kind of thinking, who's making the chances for them, for the likes of Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison? I don't really see anybody outstanding, and they just look a well-drilled, hard-working but ordinary team, and that obviously is reflected in the results.
Did they need to give Rafa more time? Was he going to turn it around, or was that experiment finished?
Well, the thing about it, he hardly spent any money, did he? Literally hardly spent any money whatsoever. And the problem has been that they've overspent on players who've been average. So I thought he might have got a little bit more time, but I think obviously you go to Norwich and you get beat, and obviously the punters are all mad anyway. As in said, they're all mad at the owners and the owner and the team, and then obviously Rafa cops it. I'd probably kept him on a little bit longer, because I think eventually he would turn it round. But it just shows you what a massive job that is. And again, as I say, just look at the quality or lack of quality in that squad.
The options are they're saying a visionary serial winner, but someone who hasn't worked in the Premier League, and that hasn't been a barrier to people being successful in the past. Or Rooney, it seems it's kind of coming down to that point now. Is Rooney realistic at this stage of his career? Is it too early for him, or is it actually just the right thing to do to galvanise the city and get them behind him again?
Well, it's certainly galvanised the city. That's the first thing. I've seen him a couple of times, Derby, and he's had to beg, steal and borrow players, and he's done a really, really good job. So from that point of view, he's learned. If you're going to go down the Rooney route, I think you have to have Rooney with somebody stood behind him who's seen it, done it, all those kind of things. A former manager who will just basically help him, because you always need help, and you need like a sounding block, all those kind of things. And someone just occasionally say, look, have you thought maybe we might be better doing this, or all those kind of things, because it's a massive job if he gets it. And the thing is that the punters will love it. The Everton supporters will absolutely love it. But he's got to get results. So I would think, would it be a gamble? Yeah, I think it would be a gamble. But he has impressed me. He really seriously has impressed me. I saw them play at Preston a while ago, and looking at some of the players, and I thought 2 or 3 of them had already packed in. They were that old and stuff. And yet the football he played was very, very good. And he's obviously he's got players who want to play for him and obviously want to play for Derby. I think he's done a really, really good job. I seriously do. And I know occasionally go, bring the old player back, and he's, now managed and he's won games in the Championship and all those kind of things. I think he's done better than that, and he's handled the situation, which has been horrendous when you really think what he's been up against at Derby. So it may well be the go for him, and I think if they do, then I just think he has to have some fella with him, some senior citizen, for want of a better description, who's done the job, but also, doesn't basically takes a step back and has a little look at it and just helps him when he needs some help.
Do you have anybody in mind for that?
No.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
like Bobby Robson could have been if he hadn't got sick for Steve Staunton.
Listen, God rest his soul, Walter Smith. Walter Smith would have been absolutely perfect with Rooney.
Yeah.
And a real football, but obviously, unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. But that kind of person would be perfect. And, he wouldn't have wanted the job, as in Rooney's job. So Rooney feels safe and secure with him, and he was just a real football man. But I don't know who there is, to be honest with you. And I think Everton would like, if they were going to go down that route, they would like a senior man who's been at the club or played at the club or certainly got some affiliation with the club, definitely, because they're that kind of club.
Well, Stephen Gerrard obviously has Gary McAllister on the touchline celebrating at Goodison Park after a goal gets scored at the Gladys, and he was quick to mention that little Emmy's header to the far post at the Gladys Street, and he'll have loved that. It's like, well, not as much as you, buddy, but it shouldn't be too hard for him to put together a backroom team that solves all of those concerns people have about experience. Yeah,
but when we're talking about this now, so who actually is head of recruitment? I mean, that's the daft thing about many things about Rafa's sacking is he just won his kind of internal battle.
Yeah.
And, all the guys who were basically, the transfer committee, for want of a better description, I think they've all gone. So it's not just you need a manager. You then actually, when you look at it and look at some of the signings, I think the thing with Moshiri is he's got a toy shop, and he thought, we'll buy that, we'll get this. And I don't know who was advising him when he first started buying players, but also I do know, because I know a couple of lads who work for Everton, some of the wages at that football club are just mad. And the problem is you're not going to be able to get those players out unless you pay them to leave. And I mean that's a really bad position that they find themselves in, because
like players on 100 grand, players on 80, 100 grand. Is it that mad, or is it?
I think it's really, really, really big money.
Right.
Really big. Because you can understand what he did. He came in, he's making a statement, and they're buying players, and they're paying them massive wages.
Right.
And you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at the wage bill.
So I'm a bit less. The 100 grand is peanuts, chump change for some of those Everton players, is it?
Yeah, well, it'll be up there. It'll be on like 4 or 5 million, I would think. Yeah, most definitely, because Moshiri came in and he's like got lots of money and he spent loads of money. The problem is, he's now spent so much that hindered the last manager.
And it's on 4-year deals as well, so you can't get rid of them.
Oh, big, long, and it's just. And I mean, as I said, the couple of lads who I knew who worked there, he said, you wouldn't believe it. You would not believe the wage bill. And as they're saying, problem with the wage bill is they've got ordinary players on massive money.
Yeah. Mark, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Pleasure, thank you.
It's Mark Lawrenson giving us some thoughts this Monday morning about the various situations. If you're an Everton fan, it must feel pretty grim at the moment. At least the team got a response from Duncan Ferguson at the weekend, and they created loads and loads of chances, and Villa were a bit lucky. It must be particularly galling that Luca Dean was the player who touched the ball the most and had more chances created than any other Villa player, and was a very important player for them. He didn't get man of the match, but didn't score the goal, but certainly was involved more than you would want one of your most recent players to go.
But the Dean thing just makes no sense whatsoever from Aston Villa's perspective. Pick a side. Yeah, from Everton's perspective, pick a side. Don't get rid of them both when it came to Valla versus Rafa versus.
I guess
Dean.
they thought they were backing Rafa and he was going to turn it around. Sure, Norwich up next, he'll win that game and the pressure will ease. But then, okay, you didn't do that. And I know everybody gives out about airplanes flying over with banners, but it's on telly. It's always on telly. We always see it. And then the fans staying behind afterwards. Very difficult scenario, you know. And they're all aiming it at Bill Kenwright. It's like, is it really his fault? Maybe it is his fault. Maybe he needs to take responsibility for it. The chairman should be the person picking the manager, but the owner is in charge of all that stuff. You know, the owner's got their fingerprints all over the stuff. So, resident Spurs fan Bobby Dwyer here says, any update on Silva's injury? Worry for Chelsea that he's out for the season. In all seriousness, Spurs will still be okay for top four. We need a couple in this week, but still better than Man United, Arsenal and West Ham. Also, as I mentioned on Friday, Son and Romero still have to come back into that team.